The year was 1914. The world was a vastly different place, a tapestry of empires and burgeoning nations, each with its own ambitions and fears. Europe in particular was a continent brimming with pride and industrial might, poised on the precipice of a new era. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered, threatening to boil over into a conflict unlike any the world had ever seen. The streets of European cities bustled with life, a testament to the Industrial Revolution that had transformed societies. Factories churned out goods at an unprecedented rate, and the promise of progress seemed boundless. However, this rapid industrialization also brought with it a sense of competition and rivalry among nations, each vying for dominance on the global stage. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in June of 1914 was the spark that ignited the powder keg. This single event set off a chain reaction, leading to the mobilization of armies and the declaration of war. World War I, a conflict so devastating it would be known as the Great War, was about to erupt, engulfing nations in a struggle for survival and supremacy. From 1914 to 1918, the world witnessed a whirlwind of destruction and despair. Battles raged across Europe, with soldiers marching to the front lines, often with little understanding of the horrors that awaited them. The war was characterized by trench warfare, a grueling and deadly form of combat that left millions dead and countless others scarred for life. The trenches, muddy and filled with the stench of death, became the final resting place for many. Soldiers lived in constant fear of enemy attacks, disease, and the harsh elements. The psychological toll was immense, with many suffering from what was then known as shell shock, a condition we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder. Millions would perish in these trenches, forever altering the course of human history. This war, unlike any before it, would employ horrific new technologies. Machine guns mowed down waves of soldiers, tanks rumbled across battlefields, and poison gas inflicted unimaginable suffering. These innovations in warfare brought about unprecedented levels of destruction and changed the nature of combat forever. The human cost was staggering, with entire generations lost to the ravages of war. The aftermath of World War I was profound. The map of Europe was redrawn, with empires shattered and new nations emerging from the ruins. Cities lay in ruins, and the social and economic fabric of many countries was torn apart. The war left an indelible scar on the world's soul, a reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked aggression and nationalism. Join us now, as we journey back to explore the causes, the battles, and the enduring consequences of World War I. Through archival footage and personal accounts, we will delve into the experiences of those who lived through this tumultuous time, seeking to understand the lessons learned and the legacy left behind by the Great War. It began with an assassination. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were visiting Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. A young Serbian nationalist, Gavrilo Princip, saw his opportunity and fired 2 fateful shots. The Archduke and his wife were killed. Austria-Hungary, outraged, blamed Serbia for the act. The fragile peace of Europe began to crumble. Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia. Serbia, backed by Russia, was unwilling to meet all the demands. Europe was entangled in a web of alliances. These agreements, meant to deter aggression, instead acted like a series of tripwires. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914, it set off a chain reaction. Germany, bound by treaty, declared war on Russia, Serbia's protector. Germany then declared war on France, Russia's ally. Germany invaded Belgium to reach France, bringing Great Britain into the war. Within weeks, most of Europe was engulfed in the flames of war. The Western Front, a line stretching across France and Belgium, became a scene of unimaginable carnage. Soldiers dug into trenches, seeking shelter from the relentless artillery bombardments and machine gun fire. Battles like the Battle of the Marne, Verdun, and the Somme resulted in millions of casualties for minimal territorial gains. The war devolved into a horrifying stalemate, a war of attrition where lives were expended with shocking disregard for human life. Section 5. Leaders who shaped destiny. The fate of nations rested in the hands of powerful leaders. Woodrow Wilson, the American president, initially sought neutrality, but was later drawn into the conflict. Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, eager to assert his nation's power, made crucial decisions that escalated the war. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, facing internal strife, saw his empire crumble under the weight of war. These leaders, bound by duty and ambition, presided over a world consumed by conflict. Section 6. The Eastern Front and Beyond, a wider war. While the Western Front raged, the Eastern Front was equally brutal. Russia, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire clashed in a vast and unforgiving landscape. The war also expanded beyond Europe, reaching Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Colonial troops from Africa, India, and Australia were drawn into the conflict, fighting for empires far from their homes. World War I was truly a global war, with battles fought on land, at sea, and in the air. Section 7. America enters the fray, turning the tide. For 3 years, the United States remained neutral. However, German submarine warfare, including the sinking of the Lusitania, and a secret telegram from Germany to Mexico, known as the Zimmermann Telegram, outraged the American public. In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. The arrival of fresh American troops and supplies provided a much-needed boost to the Allied forces, helping to turn the tide of the war. Section 8. The Legacy of a World Shattered. By 1918, after 4 long years of relentless bloodshed, exhaustion, and dwindling resources forced Germany and its allies to seek an armistice. The war had taken a toll on all sides, with soldiers and civilians alike bearing the brunt of the conflict. Trenches stretched across Europe, filled with weary men who had seen too much death and destruction. The guns fell silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 11, 1918. Across the world, people rejoiced, celebrating the end of what was then known as the Great War. In cities and towns, church bells rang out, and crowds gathered in the streets, embracing the newfound peace. The Great War was over. Soldiers began to return home, many of them forever changed by the horrors they had witnessed. Families were reunited, but the scars of war ran deep, both physically and emotionally. The world had been irrevocably altered by the conflict. The cost of victory was staggering. Millions lay dead, and countless more were wounded. Entire generations had been decimated, and the landscape of Europe was scarred by the battles that had raged across it. War graves and cemeteries dotted the continent, a somber reminder of the lives lost. Millions lay dead, empires had crumbled, and Europe was in ruins. The aftermath of the war saw people struggling to rebuild their lives amidst the devastation. Cities had been reduced to rubble, and the task of reconstruction seemed insurmountable. Yet, amidst the ruins, there was a glimmer of hope as communities came together to rebuild. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war but sowed the seeds of future conflict. The harsh terms imposed on Germany created a sense of humiliation and resentment, setting the stage for future turmoil. The world hoped for lasting peace, but the legacy of the Great War would continue to shape the course of history for decades to come. Section 9. Echoes of War, Lessons for the Future. World War I stands as a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked nationalism, the fragility of peace, and the catastrophic impact of global conflict. The war, often referred to as the Great War, was a complex web of alliances and enmities that spiraled out of control, leading to unprecedented destruction and loss of life. The horrors of modern warfare were brought to the forefront, with trench warfare, chemical weapons, and massive artillery barrages becoming grim hallmarks of the conflict. Soldiers faced unimaginable conditions, living in trenches filled with mud, rats, and the constant threat of enemy fire. The war forever changed the world, shaping the political landscape, advancing technology, and altering the course of history. The aftermath saw the redrawing of borders, the collapse of empires, and the rise of new political ideologies. Technological advancements driven by the necessities of war paved the way for future innovations in various fields. The human cost was staggering, with millions of lives lost and countless others forever scarred. The psychological impact on soldiers and civilians alike was profound, leaving an indelible mark on the human psyche. War memorials and commemorations serve as poignant reminders of the sacrifices made and the lessons learned. As we remember this tragic chapter in history, it is crucial to reflect on the causes and consequences of such a monumental conflict. The lessons of World War I are as relevant today as they were a century ago, reminding us of the importance of vigilance, diplomacy, and the pursuit of peace. Let us strive to learn from its mistakes, understanding that the seeds of conflict often lie in misunderstandings, intolerance, and the failure to communicate. Education and awareness are key to preventing history from repeating itself. By fostering dialogue, promoting understanding, and encouraging cooperation among nations, we can work towards a future where dialogue, understanding, and diplomacy prevail over conflict and destruction. It is our collective responsibility to build a world where peace is not just an aspiration, but a reality. The echoes of World War I serve as a powerful reminder of the fragility of peace and the enduring need for vigilance and cooperation. Let us honor the memory of those who suffered by committing ourselves to a future defined by harmony and mutual respect.